Welcome everyone. This is Ron Hudson, a part of the True Influence team, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for the first in our series of B2B Marketing Thought Leader webinars. As you know, today's webinar topic is what every marketer should know about event marketing. However, before we get started, I want to cover a few procedural tips for today's event, given that we have quite a bit of content to get through and a large number of people logged in. All the attendee phone lines are muted, and the best way to submit questions, comments, is to use the GoToWebinar Q&A function that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to submit questions and comments at any point during the presentation, and we will answer questions after the presentation during the Q&A segment. We do want to answer any and all questions, and we'll follow up with you via email regarding any questions that didn't get answered during the course of this presentation or during the Q&A segment. So please enter your questions. And now I'd like to introduce to you our speaker for today, Shawn Elledge. Shawn Elledge is more than a career marketer and entrepreneur. He's a direct marketer wired for event marketing. After years of event leadership as an officer and president of the Kansas City Business Marketing Association, Shawn became a sought-after speaker and presenter at marketing events across the country. Shawn saw a need for a convenient and affordable way for advertising and marketing professionals to stay current with rapidly changing and expanding marketing media and technologies, and to use that information to help their companies and clients drive revenue rapidly. He developed the Integrated Marketing Summit to meet these needs. 2 years later, Shawn launched his second event series called DemandCon, which is focused on the complete sales funnel from demand generation, lead management, sales, and marketing alignment. Starting both companies with less than $500, these two events have become known as two of the best educational marketing and sales events in the U.S. Both event series have been invited to partner with several media companies and host events all over the world. Without further ado, Shawn Elledge.
Thanks, Ron. You can. I don't know if you want to go to the next slide or how you want to present that, but however you want to control it would be great.
Okay.
Appreciate it. I've learned a lot over the last few years in regards to event management, as well as what should sponsors hope to achieve out of supporting an event. And it's pretty interesting to me. I think that there's some misconceptions about event marketing, and I hope to address some of those today. So, in fact, I just got back from an event from LA, so if I feel a little sluggish, I apologize for that. I do quite a few. I'm doing 11 events this summer, so you can imagine it's pretty crazy schedule. But feel free to hit the next slide you're on.
Okay.
Or you can pass the controls over if you like. We can move it this way. I don't know how we'll do that, but this might work the best. Okay, so for the agenda, basically what I wanted to do is kind of try to help you get the most out of your event marketing budget. Identify some of the pitfalls that I've seen from both as a person who hosts events and manages events, organizes events, as well as sponsored events and spoke at events. So I've got a great 360 perspective on events marketing and how to get the most out of it. So I'll provide some tips that I think you'll find helpful. I want to talk to you about planning your own event. This one I'm very close to, obviously, because I plan events all over the country, and now we're going global. So I want to give you some ideas in regards to timing, food and beverage tips, things that you can work with at the venues, how to save some money, get the most out of your budgets. Also want to talk to you about speaker and content strategies, including workshops. You may want to consider workshops as well. And then we're going to get into the actual marketing strategies behind an event. We'll touch briefly on email, video, social media, PR, direct mail, pay-per-click, and radio. Those are some of the channels that we use. So I want to talk to you about, how can I help you with the integration of those channels to maximize attendees. Of course, the more leads you get, the higher ROI you achieve. And then I want I'll talk to you about partner programs, how important and imperative they are today when you're wanting to launch your own event. And then lead management. What do we do with all these leads? I'm not going to get too heavy because that's a topic all on its own, but I do want to give you some ideas of what you can do with lead management and why it's so important to have those technologies in place in order for you to be successful with your event marketing strategies. Next slide. Quick snapshot, 15% of the overall corporate budget is dedicated to marketing on average, with 27% of that representing event marketing, according to Event Marketing Institute. That's quite a bit of money. I think if you look at it, event marketing historically probably has, is rather expensive, and it's more challenging to get a good ROI out of. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic today was I'm hoping that people will get some insights into how to improve this channel, not only as a way to gather new leads. If I can go to the next slide, I think a way to build tighter relationships with your existing customers as well. And so if you think of event marketing as only tossing dollars at an event organizer, hoping to walk away with a bucket full of leads, you're probably going to be mistaken. If you can, there we go. In fact, most people think that they're just going to get a stack of business cards and that's it. But the reality of it is that we're really all about social media, the real social media, the real social network, if you ask me. I may have jumped a slide there, but this is really what it's all about. It's about connecting with people face to face. I think we're all inundated with emails. We have limited amount of time. We're all crazy busy, and so when we have an opportunity to get away from the office, and we have an opportunity to meet face to face, we should be taking advantage of those opportunities to really solidify existing relationships and encouraging new ones. So let's take a few event marketing tips. I'll first talk about sponsorship. If you're going to sponsor and commit to an event, then you want to try to do so as early as possible because, as an example, with DemandCon, I was marketing that to about 500,000 people via email almost bi-weekly. And so, in fact, by the time DemandCon was, the event actually occurred, there was a total of 6 million possible impressions. And so for the people who committed early, they really got more bang for their buck. They had more branding, they were more visible, they really took advantage of the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that when you're bargaining for sponsorships, that you're bargaining to have your logo included in those emails, if possible. And make sure that your logo is present on the website, not just on the sponsorship page, but maybe also on the agenda page where everyone's going to be. So you want to take a look at those options. You want to make sure to launch a press release about your involvement in that event, what you plan on covering, why you're supporting that event, why it's important to your target audience. And then you definitely want to get the support of your inside and outside sales teams. This one's really surprising to me. I find so many sponsors that support us, and yet they give us a nice check, and then they say, okay, they're done. They just basically show up for the event and do their presentation, and then they're done. And I'm like, wow, they really missed out on an opportunity to help support their inside and outside sales teams by inviting their prospects and existing customers to be part of this event. And you're invited. Be part of this. So,
Shawn,
yes.
Shawn, real quick, I'm seeing some comments about they're requesting that you, if you can, move closer to your mic so they can hear you better.
Sure. Let me see if this helps better.
Is that any better? Can anyone help me?
Is that any better? Can anyone hear me better now?
I'm waiting to see comments about it.
Sure.
If you're able to hear Shawn better, please let us know. And that is better. I just got one response. Yes.
Okay. All right, great.
People so far. Thanks, Megan.
So, getting back to
yes, so everyone can hear you better. Thank you. Go ahead.
During your sponsorship negotiations, you want to make sure to bargain for as many free passes as possible for that very reason.
Shawn?
Yes. Ron, can you hear me? Ron, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Now they're telling me there's an echo.
All right. Audio trans. I'll move closer to my mic. Hopefully that'll help.
Appreciate your patience, everyone, while we work through these things.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Technology. Gotta love it.
I know.
Okay, so as I was mentioning with event sponsorships, that you want to try to bargain for as many free passes as possible. Most of our sponsorship packages, of course, include X number of passes. The larger the investment from the sponsor, the more free passes. And but the thing you want to make sure not to do is not to use up all your free passes for staff. Event marketing isn't really meant to be a training exercise. It's really meant to help you, bring in new leads and build those tie relationships with your existing customers. And ironically, I see a lot of people who support our events. And as an example, an event I tossed a couple months ago, the sponsor had negotiated $8,000 worth of free passes and gave them all away to their staff.
Wow.
And so really missed out on an opportunity to build tighter relationships with their customers at a minimum. Mm-hmm. So typically I tell my sponsors, look, and make sure to invite your prospects first, your customers second, and your staff last. And then additionally, a lot of people may miss out on this opportunity, but you want to ask for additional discounted passes. So some of my sponsors have done a great job at giving away their passes. They'll run out of them. And when they do, they come back to me and they say, hey, how about some discounted passes? We're willing to pay for those people to attend. These are people that we're communicating, we're doing some telemarketing efforts with, and we want them there. And so what can you do? And so typically what I did as an event organizer then would say, sure, you know what, I'm going to discount these 35, 40%. That'll cover my costs. It'll help my event be larger in size, make everyone happier. And then that sponsor, of course, did a fantastic job in driving net new leads for their sponsorship budget. So I think the takeaway here is that you want to show an event organizer that you're putting some energy into the marketing of the event itself. So if you can let an event organizer know that, hey, we're planning on marketing this thing to our audience, then they're more likely to work with you in regards to that. Okay, so now as either an event organizer, I'm going to talk a little bit about speaking opportunities as an organizer as well as from a sponsor. Obviously, as a sponsor, you're going to try to get a keynote spot. Typically, the morning or afternoon or lunchtime keynote spots are great, but a lot of times sponsor organizations will not let you do that. So then you probably want to try to negotiate for a mid-morning slot as opposed to, say, an afternoon slot. Everyone's got a food coma after lunch. They've been through presentations all morning. So obviously, those are some of the basics that you want to deal with. Second thing that I see the most common problem I run into as an organizer is sponsors who start their presentation off with a commercial. One time I gave a keynote slot to a sponsor, and which is a very expensive, a very key time for that agenda, and the first 9 slides were about the company, and I was pretty shocked. You immediately shut off your audience when you've got 9 slides about you. No one really cares. But instead, if they had started off with the pains that they address or the pains that they see in the marketplace, they would have built trust. They would have built some credibility, some understanding, and a connection with the audience. But instead, they threw up a wall with their commercial. Another one that we just started to do a lot with is in regards to PowerPoint. We are really taking an approach where we're trying to tell presenters and sponsors to put the PowerPoint away. In fact, we had a speaker at DemandCon a couple months ago in San Francisco who who really was scared about, he really became dependent on his PowerPoint, and so we convinced him to go to a whiteboard. And after the presentation, he came out, and I've never seen him smile so big. I never, in the entire time I've known this man, and he says, that worked so well, I'm never going to use PowerPoint again. I'm like, wait, I didn't say that, but I do think that that there are some presentations that work very well with a whiteboard. So you may want to play with that a little bit. And then lastly, and some of this, of course, is pretty basic. A lot of you probably already know this, but it still needs, I don't know why I'm having to continually say it as a host and organizer of events. I think it could probably use to be said again. So have a client join you on a case study works very well. It's almost like having someone else sell yourself or sell your products and services. So I've gotten to where we actually are starting to say if it's a vendor presentation that it's mandatory that they have to bring a client with them, because in my case we host events that are specific to marketers. So marketers tend to like to hear from other marketers. They don't really tend to care to hear from other vendors. So great tip. I don't know if the control's not flying, but I'm not, there you go. Perfect. Okay, so another strategy that we've been using very successfully has been workshops. As organizers, we are continually looking for ways to provide value. So what we found with workshops is initially I started doing workshops after the conference, thinking that they'll go through a conference, the attendee will go through the conference, they'll enjoy it, they might register for the next day optional workshops. But what we found is after feedback that the attendees are worn out. We had a higher no-show rate when the workshops were after the event, whereas opposed if the workshops before the event, we had a much lower no-show rate, and then they were then able to take advantage of the content at the conference in a much more effective manner. So they could take advantage of all the thought leadership that was at the actual conference if they went to the workshop beforehand. So if you are planning on doing workshops, you definitely want to do it beforehand. What we've also noticed after doing 2 years of these, that 25 to 35% of the attendees that register for the conference also register for the workshops. So that might be a good number for you, depending on your industry. You'll have to obviously spend a little time in tracking that, but it might help you with the budgeting of your event in regards to what can I expect, how many people will actually register for our workshops. We found that the workshops work best in 2-hour blocks. You really can't do a whole lot of hands-on training in an hour or even less. So 2-hour blocks seem to work best. We can keep their attention just long enough to where we'll have a small break between that 2-hour workshop, then we'll go into the next one, and then we'll add another one in the afternoon. But we always try to end our workshops a little bit early at the end of the day. And then one of the big problems that we run into quite often, especially in the marketing space, is there's so many topics. It's email, there's pay-per-click, there's analytics, there's marketing automation, lead nurturing, scoring, you name it. There's tons of topics. So we sometimes have a difficult time filling our workshop spots. So what we do is we'll do a rev split with a presenter after we've gone through their presentations and their curriculum and agreed to it. That seems to work real well, and it allows us to bring in sponsors and hosts that bring in some very valuable content. My last workshop, I actually had Hugh McFarlane from Australia, Sydney, Australia, fly in to host an all-day workshop, and it turned out to be very successful, not only for our attendees, but Hugh's done very well with that.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the next one slide here. Here we go. Content strategies. We've adopted something that's kind of unique. What we found is that, statistically speaking, people don't pay attention longer than 8 to 11 minutes. That's the average. The latest report I saw was 11 minutes, but I've seen it as low as 8. So if you look at TED conferences, you'll notice that they're no longer than 20 minutes. In fact, after 20 minutes, they don't care if you're Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, they shut it off. So what we've been starting to play with is giving people 20-minute presentation slots like TED, and then we'll allow them 10 to 15 minutes after the presentations for Q&A. Some of the presentations I've seen that work the best were literally half that. They would end their presentation 20 minutes, and then they'd have 30, 40 minutes of Q&A going on. I had to drag people out of the room because the program was running long. So I like the idea of less presentation but more Q&A, more interaction with the crowd. Seems to work really well. Keynotes, on the other hand, though, typically we run 45 minutes, and I typically like to do a morning, a lunchtime keynote, and an afternoon keynote. We also run breakouts, 2 to 3 breakouts in between the keynotes, trying to be as relevant as possible. So you may find that same issue. If you're in an industry where there are lots of topics to discuss, then ideally you're going to want to try to program similar interests programs at the same time. That way an attendee can say, you know what, I'm not really interested in breakout room A, but I am interested in program B. I'm going to attend that one. But it keeps them engaged, and it ensures that you're going to provide as much relevant content to the attendee as possible. And of course, as I mentioned, vendors today now must present with a client case study. And then what I found recently is with Birds of a Feather sessions, they tend to be our highest ranked program of the day. But 60 minutes tends to be too short. So we're actually now looking at increasing our Birds of a Feather sessions to 90 minutes. And so for multi-day presentations or multi-day events, we actually are going to start to include a Birds of a Feather session for each day. We just find it that most of our attendees really get the most out of that. Speaker rules for organizers. So if I'm organizing an event, I want to leave the keynotes for the Tim Robbins of the world, basically. I want to make sure that this guy is a draw. So it's very rare that I'm going to give a vendor a keynote slot. Typically, this has a huge impact on registrations and whether or not this person is going to attend or not. I've gotten down to a point to where sometimes I'll actually consider bringing in, a Seth Godin to an event. And he's one of the most expensive speakers I've ever had. But I know he's going to draw a crowd. Well, I might not make a whole lot of money on bringing that person in, that professional speaker, but I do know that it's going to lend itself to a pretty good audience and great feedback. Again, consider the cutting the speaker times down to 30 minutes for sponsors. You can go a little bit longer for the corporate people. Insist on client joining vendors, as I mentioned. You might want to charge more for keynote slots. And slot them in for the end of the day. So a lot of times I have a vendor, it might be an Oracle, or it could be an Eloqua, and they have the budget to support us, but they want a keynote. So instead of giving them an AM keynote, I may put them at the end of the day. But then again, a lot of times I'll make them bring a client to at least do a joint presentation. I have over 300 speaker requests that come in, so I don't know how you guys are managing your speaker requests, but I know I've got 300 folders full of speakers who come in and are saying, hey, Shawn, we want to participate in one of your 3 events. Are you interested? Here's my abstract, here's my title, here's my bio. And so what I like to do is collect all of those, because whenever I have any programming gaps, I could go to my speaker list, and I break my speakers out based on topic and abstract. So I could quickly go in there, see who could fill this spot within my agenda. And then if they want to speak badly enough, they'll cover their own travel and expenses. So it's a pretty cost-effective way for you to get the most out of your budget. Go to the next slide. Okay, so we need to go back one. Sorry. Let's talk about email strategies and event marketing strategies that we've used. We've tried everything in the world. We've done pretty broad spectrum of event marketing. See if I can go back to one slide, Ron. I don't know if this is, for some reason my controller is not working well. So what I found on the event email marketing strategies is for regional events, you've got to have at least a 3-month plan. Now that's really the minimum to get the amount of traction you want from a regional event. I also do national events, which then typically it's 5 months is my minimum. Some will say 4, but I find 5 months better. And I thought something that might be helpful is here's what we found worked for us in regards to open rates and click-through rates. I typically will start off an email or an event with an introduction email. It's like everyone opens up introduction emails, right? It's my highest open rated email. And then I'll wait 2 weeks and send an official event invite. And then I typically will do an early bird special 2 weeks later. I'll do a speaker update. And then the last month I moved to a more aggressive email schedule or communication strategy where I'm hitting them at least once a week. Typically a Tuesday, Wednesday, never on a Monday, never on a Friday. So you've got really Tuesday through Thursday, and mix it up a little bit. But then what I start to do with the subject line is I start to play with what are things that are going to get a marketer to attend my event. So typically I'll do something like, well, over 200 marketers gather in Kansas City, and then they see that, they're like, wow, what's going on? Maybe I should pay attention to this. So we've had great success with that one. Or another one, 30 speakers or 40 speakers, 2 days, 16 topics, workshops. That's another one that tends to do very well for us. Last chance to save big, last chance to join over 200 marketers. The last chance, the second one actually outperforms last chance to save big. Those, I think we've been marketed to, just constantly. We're starting to tune those things out. So you got to really look for new ways to play with your subject field. And of course, you want to practice the old standard, good email marketing best practices, offer above the fold, good design, clean design, and those are things that we rely on True Influence with, quite frankly, to help us with developing. And I'll get into the partner program that'll really focus on some of the things you could be doing with your efforts there, and how you can utilize people like True Influence. Video has been something that's worked fantastic for us. We first started using it this last event, and we worked very closely with Visible Gains. They really talked us into it. I love the idea, but basically I have a video on, in fact you could check it out at DemandCon.com just to give you an idea of what that looks like. But what I love about their technology is it's very simple to upload, and it has branching capabilities. So in other words, I can say something like, hello, I'm Shawn Elledge. I'm co-founder of DemandCon, the first conference that's dedicated to the complete sales funnel. On the next screen, please make a selection. And on the next screen, it has the ability for you to actually add branching. What would you like to do next? Would you like to hear from our speakers? Would you like to see our agenda? Would you like to register today? And it has the ability to add those links right into their platform. You don't need to know coding. You don't have to go and have a professional video producer create that for you. And it's got great analytics on the back end to help you with that. So we typically use that solution to include speaker bios. We also will embed that video clip into an email. So it's just a link to the Visible Gain server, but we'll send that out because sometimes people just really don't want to read anything, but if they see a video, they tend to be a bit more captivated. So social media, of course, everyone, I just got off the phone with Rising Media out of Germany, and they're wanting to take us global on a couple of our event series. And I was talking to Matthew Finley, who's the CEO of Rising Media, and asked him, I said, what do you think of social media? How big of a role has it been playing for you? And it's just been incredible. If you're a B2B event marketer, then LinkedIn's going to have a huge impact for you. Facebook. We do really well with this. What I do is I typically join all the groups within a region. I definitely want to make sure if I'm hosting an event in Boston or whether I'm hosting in San Francisco that I join the largest groups in those cities and put together a strategy for getting the word out about the event. The trouble is a lot of times the group manager will not post your event, so you have to be very careful about not coming off too spammy or too promotional pushing your event. You might want to start focusing on things like, hey, we're featuring this speaker has agreed to speak at DemandCon, or this speaker is going to be covering this topic at Online Marketing Summit. And so that seems to have worked very well for us. And then what I typically do is I make sure that my speakers and sponsors join the same groups as I do and get them to comment on anything that I'm commenting on. That will push my discussion up higher in the within the group, which then, of course, takes on its own viral capability and works very well for us. Of course, you want to do the basics, create a group, create an event page, do those types of things. Try to create some sort of community that goes on beyond the event itself. I also like to provide speakers with canned posts, tweets, and hashtags. So, hey guys, here's the hashtag for the event. You want to have the hashtag for the event from the very beginning of your marketing efforts. So people are starting to get used to the hashtag. you're building up some credibility. They get to the event, they already know the hashtag. When they're at the event, it's a great way for tracking all the feedback that you're getting about the event, all the people who are promoting that. I like to track that and say, hey, who have been my biggest advocates in promoting my St. Louis event versus my Kansas City event. I might want to invite them to be a free attendee. I also think that if you're going to host an event, that you want to create some speaker badges, 150, 200 by 200 square pixels, just so speakers can post those on their blogs. Hey, I'm speaking at Online Marketing Summit or the Integrated Marketing Summit or whatever your event series is. It just looks good. Looks real professional. People get curious because blogging has been so embedded into our lives. I have some sample tweets that I use. I'll promote, hey, here Joe or Junta Joe, tell you the real secret to social media success at OMS Minneapolis, and then there's the link. Do you struggle? So I might promote a speaker, I might ask a question, or I might be promotional. I'm probably going to do all three, but I'm going to build these out in advance, and I'm going to send them to all of my speakers and all of our sponsors in advance so that they can just simply put their name in there, get a sense for how we're marketing this from a social media aspect. Okay, PR strategies. I think we keep going back one or two. Okay, PR strategies, of course, I love to get the first release out at least a couple months from the event date. Love to do 2 before the event if possible, focusing or featuring some of the speakers or workshops that we're offering at the event. I also like to do a post-event. I think we get a lot more SEO traffic and juice out of it when we do these type of PR strategies. As an event organizer, I also tend to get pick up new sponsors every time I do a release. I saw this release, love to be part of your event. How can I be involved? The other thing that I get a lot of requests for is to create that PR list. I think a lot of event organizers really dropped the ball on this one. I know I did the first year. So right now, anytime we were getting ready to go into a city, we create a pretty deep list of all of our PR contacts, which includes influential bloggers in that area as well as local reporters and press. So we definitely want to make sure that you get that list to your speakers and sponsors. And if you get the more people you get hitting those professionals, the more interest you're going to create. I also recommend creating a free registration code for bloggers to attend the event. Now, I make bloggers register. I don't do that for press people, because what I've found out over the years, I imagine many of you have, is if you invite a local press reporter to come out, the chances are that if they do come out, they're going to be there for an hour and they're going to leave. And if you make them jump through any hoops at all, they're not going to attend at all. So I basically have a few blank press passes generally sitting at my registration desk. Hey, here's your pass. Go on in. Glad you're here. Spend as much time as you like. But for bloggers, I typically set up a blogging section in the back of all my breakout rooms, and those people I make register, but I give them a free code, a different kind of discount code, so I can track who's actually going to be there, which actually also helps me set up my blogging station at the back of each room. Works very well. I've gotten some fantastic press off of that. Does it work? Next slide. There you go. Direct mail. Okay, so with any effective direct mail campaign, the first thing is your list. Number one, you have to target your list. You have to do a good job of that. So you really want to do some research in regards to who's your ideal market, who's your ideal target market, and then of course the second thing is offers. So it's always the list, the offer, and then it comes down to format. So we're definitely starting to experiment a little more with DM. I think that the email, with spam filters, with the overwhelming craziness of an average person today, that it's becoming increasingly more difficult to reach those folks. So I like using direct mail. I'm actually creating one right now for DemandCon that's in the shape of a funnel, because the last thing I want to do is have a rectangle go in that box. That's looks like the rest of the rectangles in that box. But been a lot of research involved in this. I know the U.S. Postal Service has done some interesting research on this where they've taken mail, stuffed it full of, took a mailbox, stuffed it full of mail, and asked a person to pull it out, and then asked them, what's the first piece that came to your mind? What's the first one you recognize? And it's always the odd shape. So I think if you're going to do direct mail, I know it's a little more expensive to do it, but you probably want to consider doing some customized DM pieces. You know, a good friend of mine, Dick Damrow, who started Carmichael Lynch Direct, which was one of the largest direct mail companies in the world. He really hit home with me when he said, look, I'd rather send out 1,000 pieces that cost me $5 a piece that are well executed and that are different, that are going to catch the attention of someone, than 5,000 $1 pieces. And you know, if you prove out the ROI, I think it's worth testing, so I'll leave it at that. Pay-per-click, you know, I don't get a whole lot of great benefit out of pay-per-click for event marketers, but I tell you what I like it for. It does get me some action. I do get some traffic from it, but I think if anyone's heard about my event, either through a PR release or through maybe one of their local organizations or one of their local partners, or even a radio spot, I want to make it easy for them to find my site. And so I generally use pay-per-click for that reason. Let's make it easy for them to find the site and hopefully register. So I would say, you know, I'd limit my budget on that. I don't spend an outrageous amount of money with pay-per-click, but I definitely do use it for each event. And I've had some good success with radio as well. Minneapolis was fantastic for us. We used some radio. We tested it out. I'm kind of in a unique position because as a marketer and a guy who puts together marketing events, you know, radio stations, they're trying to reach marketers. Google's trying to reach marketers. A lot of marketing service providers are trying to reach my audience. So it's easy for me to barter for some of these things for free. So I would think that we definitely want to start talking about some partnerships when we get a chance. So we're going to go to the next slide, Ron. So in regards to partnerships, what we've had great success with is recruiting industry associations. So in my case, since I'm focused on the marketing piece, I reach out to the local business marketing associations, the American marketing associations, direct marketing associations, ad clubs, you name it, social media clubs, and I recruit them to to support our event. And what I do typically is I give them a free exhibit booth, help them drive awareness to their organization, maybe increase their membership, but also give them a discount for their members and an incentive back to the organizations. I'll give them a 10% referral fee for any registration that uses that discount code. Now, imagine in your industry that you would have some applicable industry associations that you could do this for. Most of those associations are working on a very low budget. Many of them on MySpace are completely volunteer. So they're looking for any kind of opportunity to increase awareness and drive membership and value for their members. So this works out pretty well for them. They're providing a discount to their members. This is a topic that's very relevant to their association, and it also has some potential revenue back to that organization, help support it. So I would urge you to to definitely reach out to your associations. I do this with just about everybody. For me, list providers, Hoovers, Net Prospects, The List, Jigsaw, all of them have given me free data to support my events because it's very relevant. My audience is very relevant to them. So I would say you'd want to make sure that in your industry, finding those marketing service providers or those publications or potential complementary vendors to reach out to them and to come up with some sort of partnership agreement. In fact, I'll be just straight honest with you. True Influences was one of our best, if not our best partner for DemandCon in San Francisco. We gave them exhibit space, they presented, they had good content, it was relevant, and they helped market our event through their email platform. So it was very effective for us. In fact, it's our #1 marketing channel, actually. Okay, then finally, I want to talk about lead management. What do we do with all of these leads now that we've collected them? We've got some good ideas on how to save money. We've got some good ideas on how to market our event. We've got some ideas on content, how we should control our speakers. We've put together our event, or we've sponsored an event. We get this bucket of leads. What do we do next? So if you're not familiar with some of these brands that I've got on this slide, then you probably want to be. I actually used to work for Eloqua, and it's what we call a marketing automation platform provider, or what I call a MAP. And the advantage to these technologies is their ability to tracking prospect behavior, attendee behavior, the ability to score that behavior, and then the ability through marketing automation to automatically nurture that behavior, called lead nurturing. And all of this really lends itself to sales and marketing alignment. So often marketers, we go to a trade show or we sponsor an event, we come back with a list of people, pass it over to the sales team, and pat ourselves on the back like we've done a good job. It's now their problem. And the reality of it is that those are raw leads that may not even constitute or be a qualified lead, a marketing qualified lead. We don't really know anything about them. So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that we're not only just sending raw leads to the sales team, but we really want to try and help them with their own lead scoring system. We really want to help them identify the leads that are either A, B, C, or D, or hot, warm, cold, or however you want to score your leads. Each business and industry is unique, but that lead score will then help prioritize the sales team's efforts. And the only reason why I harp on this a bit is because if you don't get the support of the sales team on your events, you won't have your prospects or existing customers attend, and they won't follow up on the leads you generate, which is probably the #1 reason why event marketing tends to be one of the more expensive strategies for companies. But if they align those 3 elements together, I think they're going to find that it's one of the best ROI strategies there is. It's definitely one of the best channels. So I think you'd want to look at that. If you're a large enterprise company, then you might want to look at the Eloquas and Marketos of the world. If you're an SMB company, you might want to look at the Genus, the Ride-On Interactives, the Infusionsoft, and Genius softwares. Those are really great applications, and they'll basically allow you to thank people for coming to the event, stopping by the booth. It drops a cookie on them. It knows what they're doing, whether they return to your website. It knows what content they're digesting, and it scores that behavior and automatically routes those people who are showing buying behavior to your sales team, which of course, again, can all be attributed to that particular event or sponsorship that you participate in. And I think that's a perfect segue to, regardless of what type of application you're using, what kind of email platform you're using, I think that True Influence has been a great partner of ours. They know their email space very well. They're able to help drive and put more leads into the marketing automation platform. And so I think from our aspects, that it's been a great partnership, and I appreciate the opportunity. Now, I know a lot of you, I've kind of gone pretty quick. I've briefly touched on a lot of topics. If you look at the next slide, I think we've got one more slide there. If you're interested in learning more about our event series, where you might be able to drill down into learning more about best practices in email or pay-per-click or social media, I think we've got a slide coming up here that will address some of those questions you might have. It's purely educational in nature. You may want to take a look at the cities and dates, and hopefully we'll see you out there. So Ron, take it away.
Awesome. Fantastic job, Shawn. Really enjoyed that presentation, full of extremely valuable content. And very quickly, I wanted to share with you, what is True Influence Lead Pack. It, in a very quick, brief description, is the first and only pay-per-click email advertising platform that delivers the right leads at the right time with no risk. And with that very brief commercial, I want to go ahead and segue into Q&A. So I want to switch back to the control panel here so I can grab some of these questions that came up. So one of the first questions, Shawn, that came up was regarding speaking slots. And this question was submitted by Misty. She actually asked, any creative ideas on how to capture leads on site after, during, or during a speaker's session?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, one of our events last February, we tried a new one called Mingle Sticks. And what I liked about the Mingle Stick was, and you can go to mingle360.com, I believe it is. What I liked about it was that speakers basically, everyone at the event had a Mingle Stick. It was basically a thumb drive that hanged around everybody's neck. So everyone basically had the ability to share information back and forth. Because what I see a lot of times happening is someone will do a great presentation, the attendees will come up, want to know more, and ask them for some information, connect with them. And I think if they have an easier way than collecting just a business card, that would be one of them. Another great strategy is drop your business card in the bowl and we'll give you this presentation. That seems to be the most popular one that's out there. But it is a bit of a challenge, especially if you're not sponsoring, you're just a guest speaker participating at the event. So I definitely would say free book giveaways, register for the bowl, we'll give away a new book, register for a white paper, pass me a card and I'll give you your presentation deck. Seems to be the most popular and probably the most effective because most everybody wants that deck. I also think that if you've got marketing automation in place, you could direct them to a unique landing page that was specific to that event. So if you want this presentation, please go to OMS.com or onlinemarketingsummit.com/Minneapolis, and you'll see our resource center where you can download not only this presentation but some other potentially relevant content. And with the marketing automation system in place, I can track anyone who downloads that content, not just the people of that event. So, but it's a great way for you to compare notes and see who at the event actually took that call to action and download that content.
Yeah. Thank you again for that question, Misty. Moving to the next question, which was submitted by Stephen. And his question is, what new technologies do you use or recommend?
Well, if you, I'm an Eloqua user, and that's probably primarily because I used to work there, so I was pretty familiar with the platform. I will say it's not for the faint of heart. You will have to, just buying an automated solution like Eloqua for marketing automation for event announcements that's just the first step. You really have to put together a strategy and a plan for how you want to market your events. What technologies do you need? And then do you have the resources to really implement a bigger solution like an Eloqua? And in our case, we're so familiar with it, it makes sense. But there are some other solutions out there that are less expensive if you're relating to marketing automation. But other solutions that I use, like Reg Online, Cvent, I've used both of those. eTouches is another one I'm really paying attention to. I like what eTouches is doing, so you might want to take a look at that from an event management perspective. Their badge capabilities, their reporting capabilities, their scanner capabilities. I love eTouches for their scanners. I love Reg Online for their ease of use. I like Cvent for the reporting. But they all have their pros and cons in regards to event marketing. I think some of the things that I'm starting to look for more and more today are matchmaking capabilities. I really want to give my audience the ability to set up and coordinate meetings with other people and speakers at the event in advance. So that's something I'm looking at. A company you might want to check out, in fact in Seattle, called Pathable, does a good job with that. If you don't mind sharing how many attendees are at the event and having open transparency, then Pathable might be a good solution for you. It's inexpensive. It gives you the ability to schedule meetings with people, gives you the ability to create badges and announce your program, create a community, a closed community. One of the questions I had asked myself about that, though, was, well, I already have a LinkedIn community. Do I really want to create another community that's closed? Why wouldn't it want to be open? Why do I want to pay for that? there's pros and cons to those solutions, but take a look at those. So Pathable for maybe matchmaking. There's some mobile solutions out there that you might want to look at if you have a very large event. I'd be glad to answer those offline. I've actually had ITX out of New York build my mobile application so they could do some custom mobile apps that are kind of slick. I know there's some others out there like Conventionist that's got an app on iTunes that you can try out. We used it in San Francisco or in San Diego in February, so that's interesting. For management, event management, Reg Online, Cvent, and eTouches are probably the top three that I would be looking at. I think they'll address most of your issues, and then of course the marketing automation platforms. If you're a smaller SMB, I'm definitely going to be looking at the Right On Interactives, Genu, Infusionsoft, Genius. Those are 4 great applications, easy to use. They're not very expensive. Another one I'd toss in there might be LoopFuse. You might want to check out LoopFuse. It's free, so if you only have 2,500 contacts and you want to host an event, you can use their application for free. Which is nice. But if you're looking for a really sophisticated platform, then it's going to definitely be a Marketo or an Eloqua, and that's going to just help me automate not only my events, but it's also going to help me track leads, score leads, and nurture leads automatically.
Great. Thanks again for that question, Stephen. Moving on to the next one, we are coming up at 9 minutes to the hour, so we'll be wrapping up here fairly quick. But I want to go ahead and submit. Megan asked the question. Let's see here. My company isn't often the show organizer, but we participate in 40 to 50 trade shows a year. How do you suggest driving more people to your booth?
Wow. Yeah, that's tough, especially depending on the size of those events. How do I drive people more? I really do think you've got to get your inside and outside sales teams involved, and I think that seems to be a rub with a lot of marketers today. They don't have the resources, or they just don't. I don't know what the problem is. I struggle with this one myself. How do we get our sponsors to get their sales teams more involved to drive people to the booth? Because I think you're giving away free passes and you're giving away white papers and content. You've got existing relationships with customers, but yet we don't spend a whole lot of time of getting people there. I've seen a lot of gimmicky stuff, from costumes to giveaways to tchotchkes to attract people to the booth. I think while they might be entertaining, I'm not sure it's giving you the quality of lead that you're looking for. So for me, it's more of a marketing issue. I need to market and let everyone know I'm at this event and why and what kind of valuable content I'm going to provide if they come by. I think one of the things that's worked very well for us is iPad giveaways. iPads are hot. We give away iPads at every event, and so I think that share a business card, stop by our booth. We're giving away an iPad. We'd love to talk to you about your list management services, your CRM solution, your marketing automation needs. So I think those are some of the things that I've seen work really well.
Awesome.
It's a tough question, though. I'll admit.
Yes. Well, I want to say to everyone, we really appreciate your participation in this True Influence event, and thank you again, Shawn, for delivering highly valuable content during this time. And everyone who's participated or who has participated in the event, please feel free to visit trueinfluence.com or leadpackonline.com to learn more about us and also to discover upcoming events that will be similar to this, where we will have more B2B marketing thought leaders. Again, thanks for all from us at True Influence to you.